everybody! So today I'm here with somebody special and new, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Rachel. My channel is TheJunieBird. That's also my handle on YouTube and Instagram and all those things. I make a lot of YouTube videos about fandom and kind of stuff like you do. So I'll talk about TV and movies and sometimes comics and things like that. But I also talk about life and failing at being an adult, which is something that I do a lot of as well.
I think that's something everybody does. Okay, so to start it simply, do you consider yourself to be a fangirl?
Absolutely.
Okay, and what does the term fangirl mean to you?
I think fangirl to me, it's sort of, man, it's kind of it's complicated. When you picture a fangirl in your brain, you're thinking of a 13-year-old girl who is running, screaming after like Dan and Phil.
Yes.
But I used to be that fangirl.
I think we all used to be that fangirl.
and now I'm a quote-unquote grown-up. So I'm still a fangirl, but it just looks different.
We're fan women.
Yeah. To me, being a fangirl means that I love stories and I love storytelling. And specifically, I love like XYZ different types of stories, and those are the ones that I follow a lot of.
Okay, so how would you say that identifying yourself as a fangirl, how would you say that that has changed you as a person?
I think that it's actually opened me up to a lot more diversity than, which is funny to say because a lot of the fandoms that I follow don't have a lot of diversity. So the diversity, whether that's like just racial or class or whatever diversity that is, it opens me up to that diversity in the other fans. Because I don't necessarily see that representation within the stories that I'm following, but I'll see it within the other people who are following it along with me.
Mm-hmm. And like even fan fiction, it's so different. Like there can be all heterosexual white people in a TV show, and then you look at fan fiction and it just says everything.
Fan fiction especially it's not necessarily what we would see on TV, but it's a better representation of the people that are watching the fandom and keeping track of the fandom.
Has there ever been a time that you felt ashamed to consider yourself or to say that you are a fangirl, and why?
I think there have definitely been times when people have tried to make me ashamed of being a fangirl, but I don't play like that. Like, I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I think that I just love things. And sometimes I love things that are problematic, and I know that they are problematic, and we just live with that fact of knowing that something is problematic. I don't play by the rules of like trying to be ashamed of the fact that I am obsessed with MasterChef. It's kind of like in families and like siblings. It's like, yeah, they're very problematic. Like, so it's like, yes, I know that my sister is annoying, but as soon as somebody else starts calling her annoying, it's like, no, you don't get to do that. She's my annoying sister.
Yeah.
And I am the only one who gets to say that. You don't have the right to. And I feel it the same way with guilty pleasures. Like, you can say that I'm guilty of it, but like, sure, guilty.
So as we kind of mentioned before, there's a lot of bad connotations to being a fangirl, you know, being seen as crazy and all of that. So why do you think that is, and how do you think we can change that as a group?
I think the reason that there's this connotation of crazy fangirls is because many fangirls are 13. That's just not an age where you are very critical of things. You just love things so much. Mm-hmm. And maybe you're embarrassed about it later, but
yeah.
I think that that's a lot of where it comes from is just this like very emotional and very like raw love of things that people don't really understand, so they just say, oh, that's crazy.
I think when you're young, you don't really know how to control yourself.
Yeah,
and you don't see why you need to.
Yeah.
You're like, I like this thing, it's fun, I'm having fun, I'm not really hurting anybody, even if you're being overly crazy. You don't really think you are. And I think when you get older, you kind of realize just how you're acting and how you can still be a crazy fan of things, but don't bite me. But my cat's just biting me over here. But you can be a crazy fan of things without being a crazy fan of things.
Right. So I think the other thing for me that sort of changed it, and I was never, I don't think at least, I don't think I was ever super, super crazy, but I definitely lowered my volume on a lot of things when I started studying television and studying to work in television. Because that becomes a different environment where you can't do that. You cannot fangirl to real people. You can't be a crazy fangirl to an actor or an actress if they're like right in front of you. You just, especially in a professional environment, you absolutely cannot do that. And then the other part of it, I think, is that you can't, your perspective changes when you realize how much work is put into a lot of these things.
We talked a little bit about the negative things, but what has been your best experience in a fandom?
I think community and just the people that I've met from being a part of fandoms. I think this is more, I definitely, when I was like in high school and like a teenager and was like, oh, I loved, like, I was really excited to be a part of a community, and I do still have like some friends that I've made from like the West Wing and CSI fandoms, but I've seen it much more in YouTube communities because we've reached a point in the internet and in the world now where stuff like this can happen, where we can meet people online and then like just film videos together. Hi! Hello! For the most part, people are very real and they're very vulnerable online, whether that's through forums and chats or it's like on YouTube with videos. And I think that's the thing that I most appreciate about fandom and about the communities that revolve around fandom is that they're willing to be real, because the media and like the group that we're gathering around has been really real and has brought about like real emotions.
Do you ever rely on fandoms throughout your life? For example, because I didn't really know how to word that question, for me, when I'm super stressed out or anything, I think of my favorite characters and they kind of give me more confidence. So what is something like that for you?
I don't know, I feel like I mention this every once in a while, and I may have talked about it on my channel before, but there's an episode of Fringe. You should watch Fringe.
I'm going to, I promise.
There's an episode of Fringe where we finally recognize how much Walter has sacrificed for Peter, and you realize that Walter would literally do anything, and has done so many things. He changed the course of human history. He like erased universes for his son. And just like that idea is staggering to me, and it makes me think about how much parents love their kids and how much like my parents love me and how much I'm going to eventually love my own kids if I ever have kids, and just like it gets me a little bit teary just thinking about it.
Aww.
So if I'm ever like in an argument with like my parents or something like that, I'm just like, no, okay, Walter loves Peter enough to erase universes. My parents love me a lot. They're just trying to do what's best.
Aw, yeah. That's awesome. I think that's true for a lot of shows. Like I feel like we learn so much through things that aren't real, and it's so interesting how that happens, because Like for me, I've mentioned this in several videos, like Merlin. I look at him and he's just such a good guy, and he's like all these things that I'm like, I want to be that way. And I think about that with a lot of different characters, and I think that this sounds really weird, but I think I have a part of every single character that I love, like in my personality, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I think that we relate to, we see parts of ourselves in characters that we love too, and that's why we love them so much.
It's also really cool because if you think about real life, we don't get to see those things in other people.
No.
It's almost like we see so much more of fictional characters' lives that aren't even real, and it's like we know them so much better. And
yeah,
something I've been thinking about a lot recently is how we, as, you know, humans, I want us to be that connected where we can see all of those things with each other, but we don't. We just don't talk about things like that.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard because good TV, when it showcases these emotions, it does it by saying like, oh, this is, these characters become really vulnerable to basically tell the story that they're wanting to tell us. But we don't know all of that story in the real world. Like, we don't know the background, we don't know the reasoning behind decisions that actual people make. So it can make it hard to like accept other people's decisions or like understand where they're coming from because we don't know their story.
Do you think that since we, as a majority of people, idolize these very vulnerable people so much, do you think that it makes us or you more vulnerable as a person in everyday life?
I think it has the tendency to do the opposite, actually.
Really?
I think that I get all these feelings out through TV mostly, and I feel all the feels for the Harry Potter characters, and then in the real world I'm just like, yeah, we don't need to go there.
I can see that. Yeah, I think I used to be that way, where I did my thing watching TV, and then I would just ignore everybody in daily life, and I would just write my fan fiction and nothing else mattered. But then now, as I'm getting older and thinking more about these things, I think that now it is making me more vulnerable personally, because I'm, like what I mentioned before, I'm seeing how even just the communication in some shows, some shows have really good communication between characters, and I see that and I want that, and so I start communicating more.
I definitely think that I'm more reflective, and I'm like more of a thinker than I was before I really started watching a lot of TV and getting involved in it. I'm not sure how much of that is like actual reflective on my own life versus how much is like reflecting on the fictional people.
Lastly, do you have any advice for other fangirls out there?
Other fangirls. Two things. One, don't let other people shame you for loving what you love.
Yes.
Because I'm not about that, and there's no reason for that. You love things. Just love it.
I think loving things is an awesome thing too. I mean, that's like the best thing is to love things.
It's great. And then second, don't be afraid to do something in response to that love, if that makes sense. Like, don't be afraid to write fan fiction or do fan art, because that will help you to learn how to communicate better. It will help you to learn how to like do social media. It will help if you're doing all these things for something that you love, even if it doesn't make sense or it doesn't seem like it's going to, I promise that it will turn into something that's useful at some point in your life. I know you don't believe me, but I promise it will come up again.
Just beautiful. No, I totally agree with all that. That's really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for being my first interviewee. I'm
Aw.
super excited. I'm
That
hoping
was
to do
fun.
more of this in the future with other people. So
Yeah.
yay.
That's
All right.
cool.
So we also filmed a video on her channel. Well, we're going to film a video
We're
on
about
her
to film a
channel,
video.
which is what?
We're gonna do the fan fiction tag on my channel, and I'm actually really excited about it because I always see people doing the tag, and I'm just like, I want to do the tag, but I also really enjoy the people who do it as a conversation more than I enjoy people who just like are doing it solo. So I'm really excited for this opportunity.
I'm excited to converse about fan fiction. So yay! Alrighty, so I will leave the links to Rachel's channel and all of that, and our fanfiction tag video, and I will see you sometime
Yep.
in the future. Whenever I make another video, we'll see when that is. So like and subscribe, whatever you want to do. If you want to, doesn't matter really. Do what you want, and I'll love you either way. Okay, true. Bye!
Bye.